discussion about how we can make money out of it, and how we are to stop the issues that might arise because of all the licensing issues and all that. So probably the best thing would be to be wise in whatever we do, and there are many companies who have been wise. I mean, take for example WSO2, they are making really good money, and in fact, WSO2, their middleware platform is deployed across eBay. So that's free. I mean, you can go to WSO2 website, download that, and use it. eBay is doing the same thing, but eBay is paying the money for using the service. So there are things like that, and there are models like that that we can apply. And it's all about being smart. It's now we don't have the restrictions that applied 10 years back. I mean, in a way, okay, let's take for example what Kaspersky is doing in Sri Lanka. The antivirus software is about 1,250. I mean, come on, people don't mind paying that kind of money, and people don't use $5 software because it's affordable, and people would actually pay that kind of money. So probably even for Microsoft, that would be a better model to go ahead with, but who knows? And until they don't come down to that sort of a price point, we'll be still using $5 software, and that would be a fact of life. So can't help. So anyways, it has been a really interesting presentation. I hope we can have a bit more lengthy discussion on that, especially just about seeing what Hassan had been presenting. So yeah, let's see. Okay, the third presentation for the day is going to be by Gaveen. He'll be speaking about the internet scale applications. So it's already late already. Yeah. If you guys haven't already registered, please do so. So we'll see how that goes as well. Please be about technical difficulties.
Okay. Yeah, that one, that one. Can I get it full screen?
Oh, what?
Get it full screen. Five? Hey, just choose the menu. It will be easier. Right. I guess you can hear me? Right. Okay, it's a bit late. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. This is kind of a little bit of technical talk than the previous two. Still, I hope you won't be too bored. Well, it's 25 minutes and I've got 20 slides, but not as much long slides. Okay. Right. So this is the topic, obviously, building internet applications. The beginning, cliche, I know. And this is a bit about me. I work at ThinkCube. I'm sysadmin. I do code a little, and that's my Twitter handle, GitHub, and my blog. That's all. And just for the record, so just before we proceed, can I get just hands up if anyone from out of everyone who actually or who want to be developers, sysadmins, netadmins, those kind of techie guys? Hands up. Who are actually or who wants to be? Yeah, good turnout. Right. So I'll try to make it quick, and I'll obviously, since about the time limit and the scope, it'll feel a little bit like random thoughts. Hopefully it'll be interesting, but definitely it's not going to get too techy. Right, so internet scale applications. Here I'm meaning internet scale applications. I didn't mention internet scale web apps. Not just web applications, anything that scales into, let's see. So, what's an internet scale? So, that's internet scale. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Gmail, Flickr, that's right. So, how about some stats? Let's see, Facebook has over 750 million active users, about 50% users daily, about 100 billion daily hits, well over 100 billion daily hits, 30 billion plus monthly objects shared, that's URLs, other links, media files, those kind of things, and over 2.5 million websites are using their APIs, Facebook's APIs, and daily they're all well over 130 terabytes of logs, production logs, just log files, no applications, just what's been happening there. And that's what we can see, that's what's visible, that's what everyone knows. How about that one? Anyone heard about that one? Akamai? Anyone? Yeah, okay, obviously some. That's a content delivery network. So they deliver content. Let's get into that later if we have time. Basically, they have around that much of servers. That's a big number, and well over that's pretty big actually. Well over 70 countries, global regions, and it is rumored and sometimes being measured that up to from 15 to 30% of the total web traffic of the whole world is going through these people. So it's huge. Okay? When I say internet scale, it's this thing. So this is my answer. So if you want to build an internet scale application, you can't just go hack it well, you can start that way, but there should be the culture, how you are going to groom it, how you are going to maintain it, how you are going to scale it. So culture. And from the rest of this session, I'll be talking about a few ideas how you could approach this. As I said earlier, I'm not pretending to be a wise man. Okay, so one point, did I get it correct? Right. Know your trade. So if you are building an application and say it involves some specific knowledge branch, say who's in restaurant business, hotel business, something like that. Acquire domain specific knowledge, get that and know that, and learn how to build things like that. People have already, if you are not in a specific niche market, it's more than likely that someone has already approached that problem, maybe unsuccessfully, maybe doing well, but still, it's more than likely that someone might have approached that problem. So learn from that. Learn about technologies. Learn about new things, stay updated. When I say learn about technologies, this is something I've seen over about 7-10 years during the course, that even technical guys, even developers, even sysadmins, sometimes tend to be afraid of certain technologies. For example, who likes shell, Linux shell, command line? Can I get hands up? Yeah. That's not much. That's not much. Certainly not much. Well, I love that. Of course, I'm a sysadmin. Yeah. Unless you're planning to spend the rest of your life working completely with environments which doesn't have Linux or any other variant of Unix, I strongly recommend that invest some time to learn basic Unix commands and concepts. It takes you a long way when you're building something big, because it's more probably than not the environment, the hosting environment, the platform you're going to build it might be involved in some sort of Unix or Linux related things. Other technologies as well, they are not, it's not the only thing, but I'm just saying you can't accept Unix. Basically, it's kind of omnipresent at this state. Right, okay. Yeah, the last part, read the fine manual. I hope you didn't interpret that anything else. And there's something called search engines, you can use it. Right, get right people. One point I actually wanted to make right about here was that technical teams building something sometimes tend to be a little unbalanced. Okay, I'm not trying to pimp my job here, but people tend to get a little bit short on system administration or system engineering side. That's not necessarily a bad thing, considering a startup budget and those kind of other factors. But the thing is, if you are building something big, if you are trying to be something great, then you should cover all your bases. You should have great programmers, great designers, and you should have people who knows how to handle systems, how to scale things. And other things, yeah, standard things you will hear in human resource. And basic thing, when you have a lot of technical people, they tend to get a little opinionated and sometimes tend to be confrontational. The thing is, since we all, I mean not all, most of us are in technical professions, it's great if we can be respectful and we don't step on each other's toes. Yeah, have a solid architecture, that's a key thing. I'm not talking about designed in a separate software, managed by several people, and a lot of diagrams, not those kind of things. If you know, if the person who's driving the project, the product, knows how this this thing is going to be built. If the concept, the architecture is solid, then that can take you a long way. And have a good engineering design. Design in the sense, you have the architecture, then how you are going to make it technically possible, how you are going to implement it. Some things fall from that point. A good engineering, that's a key thing, another key thing. Well, and another thing, don't over-engineer, don't over-complicate things. That's fine if you are going to be sophisticated. That doesn't mean that you have to go gung-ho with that and create some mess. Right. Avoid architecture degradation. I'm going to get to that point later, so I'm going to just skip that. Right. This is something even I learned the hard way. Use the right tool for the right job. Okay? Your favorite tool possibly can't do everything. It's got to have some limits. It's designed by humans. So the thing is, there are certain tools, maybe programming languages, maybe libraries, maybe something else. Just they might, excuse me. Sorry about that. So the thing is, sooner you accept that you can't do everything with one tool or one set of tools, the faster you will learn that there are alternatives, that you can be better at that. And to do that, holding a prejudice against certain technologies or be religious about certain other things, that's not going to help your cause. Learn it the hard way. And brand names aren't for worshipping, obviously. There are people who still think if you say database, that's Oracle. Yeah, Oracle does database great, and they have done great things. But that doesn't mean each and every possible situation that you have to use a database is going to be Oracle. So, like that. And cloud, it isn't a magical silver bullet. It's not something magical that will solve all of your IT problems. It's something you can use. We have different things as services: IaaS, infrastructure, PaaS, platform, SaaS, software. We have that stack, and we have the cloud. We have different cloud providers. We have different level of services. Use it. Don't be overzealous about it. Cloud isn't the only thing. And this is the internet. It's big. Get used to it. Do things right. Best practices. Okay, my presentation is a bit messed up here, but I hope everything's going to be fine. All right. When you're building something, internet scale, you're going to have millions of users, probably. Maybe it starts with hundreds, thousands, millions, and could grow. Might not, but that's the business case. But from technical point of view, we are going to plan for the high target. So in that case, how many people are you going to employ to manage servers, to update systems, to install patches, to deploy, to maintain releases, project managers? You know how crazy it can get with these kind of things. Facebook has a good video. If you just Google it and find, there's something called push, how Facebook pushes their software releases. It's a good thing. It's a good talk. If you are a technical guy, then you know what's the pain in that process and why that process is in place. It's not just you type the code and you put it in the server. It's not like that. So, and finally, please don't let the process be a burden. I've seen environments that overburdens technical guys, coders, developers, with filling forms to submit a patch. Maybe it's not a necessarily bad thing in that sort of environment, but the idea is We technical guys tend to like do technical things, so just don't overcomplicate it. Right. These are the points I mentioned. Sorry. These are going to be some points that I'd like every one of us to think about. Why I mention these things, I've been working for sysadmin a little while, just about 7-8 years. And during that time, I've worked in a couple of environments with several clients, projects, and I've seen the pains. I've seen how things fall apart. Well, maybe not Facebook level successes, but I've seen the other end. So, yeah, test, please test it. Test means you have to test the software. I know it because I'm a sysadmin. Coders, developers give me, okay, here's the code, brand new code, ready. Let's go live. And you go live, bam. So, why? So I can go and ask, all right, what happened? So, didn't work out, and our servers got hammered, and it went down. Well, it works fine in my computer. The last point. Yeah, that's a certification. Yeah, you can label it, but please don't do that in production. And testing isn't always a QA job. So developers, even every member of the team has to be conscious about that. That testing or maintaining the quality of a product isn't always the job of QA. You can't just hand it, oh, that's QA job. So no, it's not going to be like that. And this is something I've seen certain companies do. I've heard that Facebook does that. Let the developer take responsibility. Okay, if you made this particular commit, then you fix it. That's okay. I might sound a little patronizing here, but I'm just saying it's a good thing. I'm not asking you to punish your developers. It says, let's take some responsibility. Okay, I committed this, then if it's broken, I'll fix it. Then I'll next time make sure that my code doesn't break the build. Tools and things that you might be familiar and you might not. Extreme programming, test-driven development, behavior-driven development. Cucumber is actually a tool which helps you to write test cases in a language which business analysts and non-technical people understand it. And there are other tools which can be used with Cucumber so that you can automate the whole thing. Don't push untested code. And even better than just running tests manually, try to, if you are doing something big, it's essential that you consider something like continuous integration. There are separate servers like Hudson, now it's called Jenkins, and then there's called, well, I can't remember the names exactly because of the rush of the adrenaline rush and everything. But the thing is, there are continuous integration servers which will have test cases and which will take the commit. Whenever someone commits to the main release repository, it will build, and if it fails, it will show it fails. So that you know at any given particular moment that you know whether your code is broken, actually, or it's running. Well, let's move on. Yeah, fight the smell and fight anti-patterns. Okay, I am sysadmin, now I am giving advice to developers. Okay, pardon me, but this is something I've seen more than once or twice. Code grows and tends to get a little smelly. You can see that code smell. Oh, anti-patterns everywhere, burned in your code. It's splattered, it's ugly, it's messy, it's spaghetti. So don't do that. Have code auditing things. It's not necessarily be a regulated process. If you are a lead, then just drop by your developer and if you know this person is tend to make that kind of mistakes, just drop by and see how things are going. Refactoring is good. Code mill isn't something to be held. Don't let the code age on you. Sometimes you find legacy code from several years back or maybe several months back still lingering there, making your lives harder and making things hairy. So don't let the code age on you. Do regular audits of your production code. If you're catering millions and millions of users, there's no excuse, that was a legacy code. No one's going to ask that. And bad code is bad code. How glorified it is, how hyped it is, how beautiful it is, still bad code is bad code. And version control. Use version control. Please use version control. Because I know certain people who think if your code isn't version control, then your code doesn't exist. Okay? Don't tell me that it's not in version control. It's there, but it's not there. Right. Why would you do anything? I mean, why would you try to organize things? It makes your life easier. You can go back, you can go forth, and you can fork it, you can branch it, you can test your things, and still have a working code base, not broken, not messed up. So please use the version control system. Well, I prefer Git myself, but that doesn't mean everyone has to use a distributed version controlling system. These are actually 4 open source things. Git, Subversion, Mercurial, and Bazaar. There are proprietary things, Perforce, and Microsoft has a couple of version controlling systems. And there are other commercial things as well. This helps automation. It helps continuous integration. It helps deployment. It helps auditing. It helps maintaining. In the long run, it helps a lot. No version control, no deploying. It's usually not a good idea to hand out a patch to be deployed in a production server if it's not already tested and it's in version controlling. So that's that. And everyone who's doing coding, please take some time to learn the basics, the concepts of version controlling properly. Because I've seen people who take a copy of the version control directory somewhere else, make some changes so that it's not there in their working copy, and if it's okay, then they copy it over and they commit. That's a working anti-pattern actually. Don't do it. And this is one of my pet areas because this is where we usually get to play. Use configuration management, servers, services. You are going to use a lot of assets, physical servers, virtual servers, IT infrastructure. You automate, then if you're automating, then you should have a configuration management system in place. It doesn't matter which product, which tool you use. Actually, which tool you use doesn't matter at all in almost all these cases. It's what you do. Tool is a tool, and what you do that's what's important. So, what's a configuration management system? Anyone? Any idea? Anyone who's using configuration management in their production service here, please? I'd really like to see someone putting their hands up. Unfortunately, no. And even I myself can't put my hands up at this moment. Yeah, that's kind of sad. But what it does is, it treats infrastructure as code. Basically, it says your hardware, your services you install on a server, that's all code. Let's treat infrastructure as an application, because you are not going there physically and mounting a CD-ROM, or you are not going there and moving bits by hand. Basically, you are using programmed interfaces, you are using shells, you are using GUIs, and other methods and means to manage your systems. If you can manage your systems with a certain amount of work, it should be possible, fairly possible to automate it. So why not? This has been a very good question asked. So it's not a new topic per se, but this topic has come into prominence quite recently, actually past couple of years. Most popular configuration management system by now, most probably is Puppet. Then there's Chef. There's this old tool called CF Engine. M Collective is not just configuration management, it's a instrumentation tool. It's part of the Puppet family. And why would you take the extra effort of making a manifest or a recipe to manage your service or server when you can just log in there, type some commands, and make that change possible? Yeah, you can do that. And yeah, that's fine. Well, as a matter of fact, we all do that. We just witnessed that. But the point is, one-off work, this is one-off task. That's usually, most probably, it's a myth. That doesn't end there. You just set up, okay, I need a server tomorrow. It's a quick job. It's one-off, just install it. I do that, and I keep maintaining that for years, maybe. The point is, if you did some work in infrastructure, it means more than likely that you will be using the similar situation. If it's not the exact same, you might be using something similar in future. So why not automate it? Yeah, and the ultimate purpose of this, if you use configuration management, then what you end up having is managed infrastructure as opposed to marked out infrastructure. And as a matter of interest, I'm just going to tell you something that it happened yesterday or day before yesterday. Wikimedia Foundation, people who manage Wikipedia, of course they have huge infrastructure, IT infrastructure. They open sourced, they completely made public their whole Puppet configuration files. So you can just, there's a Git repo, you can clone it, and you can see how Wikimedia Foundation, that if it's more easy to say is Wikipedia, how their servers are configured, how their Linux boxes configured, how firewalls are set up, what are the things they do when they set up network. All this kind of information is there publicly, and if we are not learning from something like that, then that's our fault. So they are basically using Puppet. It's available on the internet. I tweeted it yesterday, I think. If anyone wants, you can contact me later. Right. So, and yeah, this is also something I really want to mention. Security isn't a task. You can't just go around building a system and apply security later. That doesn't work like that. You can try to bolt in security later, work sometime, but it stays like that. It's bolted. It tends to get loose. It tends to get create noises and tends to get in your way. And sometimes the worst could happen, right? Both infrastructure, that means servers, and gadgets, network nodes, infrastructure related things, and code, how you do applications, both need to be secure. So this is the third point. That's something I've heard from almost all the people, from almost all the projects I worked. They said, who on earth would want to hack my server? It's some idle little box there. Who would want that? Believe it or not, last week, just exactly 7 days ago, we set up a server for one of our customers, and it wasn't put on internet for maybe a couple of, just more than, less than, actually it hasn't been even 12 hours. And it was there, and it was inside the data center, which would usually not get traffic, and that IP range is not public. It's basically there's a NAT. That means you can't use, in usual circumstances, you can't access that server directly from the internet. But as we were just looking at the security log, we noticed someone probing our server to see whether we have web dev storage enabled, so that they can put some files there. And that was amazing because even we tends to think, okay, yeah, I know security is something you shouldn't take lightly, but who would get here? But thing is, more often than not, that would happen. If you don't believe me, if you have Linux servers, just go right now when you get your Linux boxes, just try to just cat your security log, varlog secure if you have CentOS Red Hat servers, and see how many times there have been brute force SSH attempts. And yeah, HTTPS, TLS, SSL, those protocols, secured connections, that's not a fad. That's usually something you should use. How many of you know that if you don't use SSL with Facebook and many other services, on a wireless network, unprotected wireless network, if you use without SSL a service like that, there's a Firefox add-on that just with one click allows someone in the wireless network to hijack your session, just like that. Real life, I've seen that, I've done that, but with permission, of course. So don't take that lightly. If you have applications on the internet, especially payments, doing payments, personal information, privacy, there's no there's no excuse that you shouldn't use secure methods. Maybe HTTPS, may be something like Speedy or something. Doesn't matter. Try to make it secure. And that thing, that's a cardinal sin. If you use chmod 777 on production server on a Unix system, every time you does that, a whole bunch of puppies gets killed. Come on, who would do that? That just says, this directory, take this directory, everyone in this whole universe can access that. Right? So don't do that. I know it's easy to troubleshoot things, fix things, but there's no excuse that you should use that command, chmod 777 permission. There's no excuse that if you use that in a production server. Use that in your own machine. And mandatory access control systems like Linux and AppArmor tends to get in your way, tends to make your life harder. But the thing is, yeah, right. Still, those aren't placed there just to make your life suffering. It's not your enemy. Right, we are getting to the end. Scaling, it should start from the beginning. The thinking, the mindset should be there from the beginning. You can't just have 2 servers and do a basic network, and 1 year later you can't just be managing 40, 50 servers and be gracefully scaled. You can't just do that, so unless you plan it. And do load balancing and plan for high availability or fault tolerance. These things, this slide alone, I can take a day and talk whatever little I know. But the thing is, we don't have that time. So I'm just going to mention it. And use caching. If you are making an internet application, please try to use cache, because it will reduce the cost you would take on infrastructure just to make the application run faster or application run at all. Basically what caching does is take what can be repeated and store it in memory, and when someone accesses that specific part of your application, serve it from the memory, which is much faster than a disk write, cheaper than a disk write. Sorry, disk read. And if you have a large applications, if you have a lot of users, then you definitely should conduct load and stress testing. You can have a superbly architectured system, well thought of design and brilliantly code and everything, but it might not work well under stress. So you have to do testing on that part as well. And not every technology scales gracefully. Some technologies scale gracefully on paper, and when put into practical use, not so much. And some technologies don't scale at all, not even on paper. So I'm not saying those are bad, inherently bad, they shouldn't be used. There are cases, but if you are using an internet scale application, that's something you should think about. There's been a lot of ha-hoo happening last couple of years about that MySQL and SQL systems doesn't scale in internet. That's why you should go to NoSQL. Well, there's a certain truth to it. It gets painful, but doesn't mean you should just jump the gun and go to NoSQL systems. Yeah, sure, they have their applications, and I'm a big fan of NoSQL systems. I promote Couchbase Server and MongoDB. I talk about them all the time, but the thing is, you are not going to use it every time. Sometimes plain MySQL just do more than fine. And use messaging. You might have heard fancy terms, enterprise service bus, message-oriented middleware. Yeah, but they tend to point towards the same concept that you use in messaging. When you have distributed services running on a distributed thing like internet, there are situations that messaging is probably one of the best ways to handle those things. Not necessarily always, but in conjunction to that situations, trying to do worker jobs, background jobs, and the tasks which sucks your resources, like say file upload, image resizing, say video conversion, those kind of things. Try to do them asynchronously. Just take into a different work queue or a different worker process. Do the work in background. Let the system flow. And when you're done, pass message. And there are a lot more to it. So, and finally, monitor and measure. Some people make the mistake of installing and setting up the server and forgetting everything about that. Yeah, you can do sometimes, but if you are running an internet scale application, it's essential that you capture important system metrics and you analyze them. You just see what's happening, what are the trends, what you should be looking at, what you should prepare yourself for. Monitoring sucks. Yeah, every sysadmin knows that. Maybe other people from outside world doesn't necessarily see that, but yeah, it sucks. Basically, it sucks. But still, you have to use it until someone fixes that. You have to keep using what's available right now. And using homegrown network monitoring or management system isn't easy as it seems right now. You say, what the hell, I can just write a script to do a ping to this server, I can just get some statistics from SNMP. What's the big deal? Well, go ahead and try it. Be my guest. It's not that easy. I've tried that, so I have the experience to say it's not easy. And have notification and alerting in place. Email alerts, SMS notifications, don't fly blind. If you have a internet scale application, as I know for a fact that some people in this room do, then you know that you have to be aware of the situation of your server. Maybe it's from application side, maybe your application is generating stack traces and errors from the software part, from the application code part. Maybe it's failing, maybe it's having too much load, maybe disks are failing. You can't fly blind. You have to have your eyes there. So that's that. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so I don't know how much I overdid. I hopefully didn't go too far. Yeah, I didn't watch the time before I started, so no point of looking at that. So you can, questions, go ahead. And last part, if anybody needs to get those Linux ISOs, I can just copy it over. Yeah.
Come from the other end of the argument.
Right.
That you
Before you go into that, yeah, like sorry for the disruption. I'm just saying, before we get to questions, I'm just saying these are something I thought I should tell. Some random ideas. I'm not trying to be patronizing, and these aren't always. Maybe it's not always the best case. These are some good practices. Might not work for you, but something you should think about. Yeah, please continue with your.
So depends on if you're a startup.
Right.
And if you're a bunch of engineers.
Sorry?
If you're a bunch of engineers
Yeah.
starting a startup, and you're building an internet app.
Right.
You think the entire internet is going to come to your scale. And your plans for scale.
Yeah.
And usually then the time to build takes 3 or 4 times
Right.
than what you get to a minimized product.
Huh?
Where you can test what you're building. Right? So most of the time you're building the wrong thing. So in that case, how would you approach scale? How would you plan for scale? When
Right.
you don't know whether your app will give a scale.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing. Actually, I had that in back of my mind when I said you shouldn't over-engineer systems. Well, it's not be the most clear thing to say, but yeah, more often than not, your new application, your new startup, might not get that big of a hit, and it might not go into that level. Fine. The thing is, what I mentioned is, you should have thought about how you could go scaling when things get big, rather than plan for a huge scalable system from the beginning. Yeah, it's not going to be entirely painless. Definitely, it's going to have some systems know-how and some sleepless nights and some work, probably. But it could be very less painful if you think about it a little bit. For example, as I said, how you architecture this, how you make the system architecture, how you group certain kinds of servers, certain kind of services, how you plan the networking, and importantly, how you plan about approaching your infrastructure build when you, or if you grow up. So those kind of things, if you plan from initial stage, maybe you're not going to build a elastically scalable service just from day one, fine. But have something basic that you can gracefully scale. That means if you are doing something asynchronously, if you are passing messages, then just like this, you can add a node and have it working with minimal work. That doesn't mean necessarily you can do it automatically. Yeah, probably there are people who have done that. Well, I'm not one of them. So I think the thing is to have that consciousness, that approach, rather than going all force at the beginning. Yep, any questions? Any more questions? Yeah? Yeah.
So now we talk about a lot of engineering, security, testing, all
Yeah.
of that. And the problem is that now, end of the day, you are selling this to someone.
Sorry, I didn't
You are
follow.
selling it to someone.
Yeah.
Your users, your customers,
Uh-huh.
or the person who you work for. Now, they have certain expectations on you. They have tight deadlines, tight
Right.
budgets, all of that. Now, where do you draw the line of the balance where this engineering, quality and assurance and all of that? And how do you face these tight budgets and deadlines with all of these things that you talk about?
Yeah, right. So I'm not saying you should do it in, say, go all the fancy things at once. Even from the designing and architecture things, I'm not saying you have to follow some methodology and stay to the book and do diagrams and everything. The thing is, you should know what you are doing and approach that with what you have, your skill set, your team skill set and what you can gain. And the thing is, well, you couldn't, probably you can't just do continuous integration from the beginning, yeah. But thing is, testing and certain things, security, you can't take that for granted. I mean, you can't replace that. You can't just accept that because we are smaller, we can make cuts and just avoid doing that. Maybe you can think about a reduced scale or reduced scope.
I'm not talking about me being small and me not willing to do that. I'm talking about how do you sell that to the customer? How do you bill for it? Let's say you do unit testing, let's say you have a unit testing as well as a QA department, and now you're going to bill that for the customer. Now, if you say, we tested this twice, then he will ask, why the hell are you going to test it twice?
Yeah, that's definitely.
How do you sell it? How do you sell it for the customer when there's so much competition and there are so much people who's offering this the same thing for a lower price? How do you gain the competitive edge?
Right. So if you, I mean, I'm a little bit confused about the thing. I'm just thinking. So if you aren't sure about what you are going to build, and if you don't have the target or the idea what you are going to do for a customer or a product, that's something thought out from the project level. Well, it should come from the project management level or whoever leading the project. Maybe they don't have project management per se, but yeah, right. I get the point, but thing is, well, it's something you should take care of yourself. You should have to think about, at the end of the day, you are going to sell it or you are going to hand it over to someone. Then, well, we all know that customers, they don't always want the perfectly engineered great systems. They sometimes just want a solution, something to get by. So in that case, your ego might get hurt, or not just either ego or your interest, professional things, but I know unfortunately that's how we have to roll.
Yes, one minute. It's not a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, it more looks like for an organization which has already developed the version 1 of the software, when it want to expand, when it want to scale, what are the things you need to think rather than applying these principles for the very first software or very beginning inception of the software.
Yeah, right. So the first thing, if you already have the system in place, then you should have a fair amount of ideas, the capabilities and limitations of your system. How much memory it's going to run, how much, with this amount of infrastructure, how much hits you're going to handle. You have that kind of metrics, at least rough ones. Then you can approach by trying to scale from that limit. So usually what happens is you try to parallelly scale infrastructure and expect your system to handle the growth, their capabilities parallelly, but that doesn't happen usually. So thing is, first you should cover your code bases. Sometimes your code might not be well thought out from, I mean, you might have not planned it to grow into this limit. You might have system level dependencies. You could hit boundaries, and even technology-wise. If you take a technology, with the amount of growth you're experiencing, you might hit roadblocks. For example, Facebook is not using pure PHP per se. They use something called hip hop. They take PHP and they compile it into something because they couldn't get by with the performance of pure PHP, like that. Technology, code, how you do things. For example, system, you can, if you have boundaries of subsystems and isolated some functionalities, then boundaries, communication between those things, then those are areas that you could start to look at. Well, my answer isn't quite systematic right now, but that's something to think about.
I have two questions.
Right.
No, because they're pretty much related. The first question is, a lot of us have developed applications which are almost purely desktop based, but the code behind that could very well be taken, the whole application could very well be made web-based.
Right.
How, how do you begin the shift of taking, I'm going to probably experience that sometime soon, how do you take the shift of your desktop application, desktop code? What would you say is the recommended way of taking that over to the web?
So you are thinking of something, what you have product, you're thinking of moving it to the cloud and provide it as a service or something?
Yeah.
Right. So first thing, if you have covered your features, system features, then with the technologies, if it's feasible, if it's possible, then one thing, not one thing, there are a lot of things about how you handle data, how you handle data migration, how you handle synchronization, keeping in touch, and how you are going to handle the security and privacy of data, and what kind of load, what kind of hits you are expecting from that backend, because currently it's decentralized, everyone's running on desktop, and suddenly a portion of each that load is going to get to one location and it's going to get hammered. So you have to have some estimations how these things are happening, and you should optimize network traffic, data transfers, protocols used, and there are whatnot.
This is the second part of the question, which is related mostly to the load balancing and the load testing of it. You can have several types of applications. One is the application where the server side is very heavy. You may have image processing put into it. You may have some sort of artificial intelligence being done completely on the server side. Or you can have applications which have a lot of traffic coming into it, but it's mostly crowd-based.
Right.
Is there some sort of resource or the best way to learn about which technologies, which processes would make your life easier towards them? Because I mean, people have gone through this time and time again. Is there some sort of common knowledge base or some way to make sure you don't trip over the same things that other people have gone into?
Right. To be honest, I don't have any definitive answer for that. I myself haven't researched into that level, whether there is a solved problem, whether the knowledge base is out there, that I myself haven't researched that, so I can't possibly say I know. But there are tools and there are projects which have published their approaches and outcomes, and what sometimes I found really useful is that people who have built large-scale systems have come out with their findings. For example, GitHub, Heroku, those kind of guys, they have given a lot of details that you shouldn't actually expecting from them, how they build it and how they scaled it. So those kind of things might be useful, but as for your question, I don't have a definitive answer right now, sorry. Yep, I think that's about it. Right, thanks everyone for not falling asleep.
Thanks, Gaveen, for the presentation, and thanks, Sandra, for the presentations also. So yeah, today's RefreshColombo had been one of the interesting. I mean, we talked about basics technical. Something that we should do, I guess, at RefreshColombo, and thank you very much for everybody who happened to be here, and I hope that you guys registered to I don't know, this lovely registration app that we ran today. So bit of a thing, I mean, one of the things that we are trying to achieve in RefreshColombo is building up that entrepreneurial knack in all of who attend RefreshColombo, and in a way, today's RefreshColombo had been enlightening, because, for example, we talked about something really important with Buddhika's presentation about how to monetize something free and open source. So food for thought for everybody. I know that everybody here are teaming with ideas, and in fact, there are people who have extremely good, extremely viable ideas like Chandrika here. So if you guys have any ideas about what you guys are going to do, yeah, it's probably time to think about what we shared today. And in fact, um, the last presentation by Gaveen, we've been there, we've done that. You know, we have glorified code, we just uploaded it hoping that, okay, things are going to go fine, but, you know, shit happens, can't help. So,
Okay, guys, I want to make a quick suggestion to the audience. I wish there were more people here. So, how about we try and make a pledge that if we've got a project running, we're going to come along to either the next Refresh Colombo or one of the Refresh Colombos after. We'll give our names to our local, the guys behind Refresh Colombo, and say that we are going to show our software or whatever they were working on at one of the Refresh Colombo sessions. I think it's a really good idea for us to step out of the bubble, to step out of our little shell, and get some exposure. So I'm going to put my name down for next time's Refresh Colombo. I'm going to come forward, take the step forward, and present a product that I have in mind. So I just think that it's a really good idea for everyone to take the challenge because that'll help us get where we want to get faster. So I don't know. Is this a random idea? I hope that it'll go.
yeah, it's a great idea actually.
Refresh Colombo is actually it's a great event. We've been running this now for 1 year, more than 1 year, right? So it's awesome. Well done, you guys. And but it's a talk based. So if we were to organize a entrepreneur meetup separately or in a casual location, maybe in a coffee shop or something, how many people would be interested in showing up? Can I see a show of hands? Okay, excellent. So I'm part of Slascom. Our company is part of Slascom, and so Slascom is interested in organizing across all ages or all industry entrepreneur meetups every month. Let's try with one. So we might have one coming up next month. So we'll keep you posted and hope everyone will show up.
It's actually a good initiative because, you know, Slascom and ICTA, whatever said and done, have to, you know, come up with some ideas like that because, you know, ideas are teeming and there are many ideas that can, you know, float. And about time that somebody came up with some, you know, financial oomph to get things floating. And many things are happening all around the world. Probably it's a high time that we do the same thing and make Sri Lanka as we planned at Refresh earlier. The next Silicon Valley, probably we can do that. Let's hope for the best. So yeah, with positive thoughts and with expectations of probably meeting up with Chandrika on the Slascom meetup. Let's say adios. So we'll catch up soon next time. Next time, of course, Refresh Colombo is going to be on the third Thursday of the month. So yeah, hope to see you all next time. Thank you very much, guys.